Catharine, thank you so much for being on the Thyroid Fixer podcast. I've been waiting for a while to have you on. I know you and I have run in the same circles and been at the same events. And finally, we are going to talk about you and your product and your years of research. So once again, thank you for your time and welcome.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, and thanks for doing what you're doing. We're, like we said earlier before we started taping, we're all part of the same tribe, and we support one another, and we all have pieces of the puzzle that's going to hopefully help people turn their health around, because the traditional medical community isn't really doing it for us. So prevention is the name of the game, ladies and gentlemen.
Absolutely, that's an understatement right there. 100%.
Yeah, and correction too, prevention and correction, and it can be done without invasive, medical drugs or whatever. I mean, if you need that, that's okay too. But we're here to show you some other options.
Exactly. So today we're going to be diving into the world of spirulina and chlorella and all things algae, which you've been studying for many years. And again, what we were talking about off camera is the world kind of thought you were crazy for a little while, and now you've proven them wrong.
Yeah.
So let's lay the groundwork for the listeners first. And what is algae? What is spirulina? What are we talking about here?
Yeah. Well, it's its own food category, number one, because it's not technically a plant and it's not an animal. And by the way, it was the first life on Earth 4 billion years ago, and it's still here. So there's something very special I might point out about something that was the first. And it's the most nutrient dense food in the world. So that's the other thing, is you need to know it's a food. It's not a supplement. So there's two really main categories of algae. One is called macroalgae and the other one is microalgae. We're going to be talking about microalgae, but let me explain to you what macroalgae is. Mm-hmm. It's that stringy stuff that washes up on shore, also known as seaweed,
right?
Or kelp or dulse, but it's only in the sea. And it does have nutritional value because it has a lot of fiber and iodine because it's from the ocean, but it has virtually zero nutrition. Lots of fiber, zero nutrition. Mm-hmm. We're talking about microalgae, which is the complete opposite. First of all, microalgae is everywhere. Yes, it's in the ocean, but it's also in the lakes, the rivers, the streams, the soil, your swimming pool, your aquarium, and it is the complete opposite to seaweed. It has virtually no fiber, and in fact, spirulina, what we're going to talk about, has zero fiber because it's a bacteria. So zero or low fiber and the most concentrated nutrition in the world. And you start to understand that when I tell you that a million microalgae could fit on the head of a pin. That's how tiny they are. And we have a quote from NASA that says 1 gram of algae has the same nutrition as 1,000 grams of fruits or vegetables. 1 to 1,000. That's pretty extraordinary. So algae is everywhere, and it is a food crop. And there's tens of thousands of strains in the oceans and the lakes. But the two that we're going to talk about, which are the two that are harvested as food crops, are spirulina and chlorella. So I'm going to show you a couple pictures. This is a spirulina farm, and this is a chlorella farm.
Okay.
Now, I'm doing this for a couple of reasons. Number one is to reemphasize that algae, especially in tablet form as we sell them, is not a supplement. Yes, it comes in these tablets and it looks like a supplement, but it's not. We call them bits because they're bits of food. They're grown hydroponically in fresh water, like tomatoes or lettuce. And then we air dry them into a powder which we dry without high heat, which is very important because that means we are one of the few companies whose enzymes and pigments are intact. When you use high heat in anything, it destroys some of the nutrition, it kills the enzymes, and that doesn't happen with us. And then we press them into these little tablets that we call bits because they're bits of food. So it's a crop. So there is algae in the ocean, but ours is not from the ocean because the ocean is toxic. So please don't go to your local beach and scoop up a bunch of algae that's growing there because it's probably toxic and will make you and your pets sick. But
that's the same thing with kelp too. I want to stop you there because so many of my listeners, doctors, are, if they are on board with a hypothyroid patient taking in a little bit of iodine, they tell them, oh, just go get some kelp. And it's like, wait, no, because of the high heavy metal content,
Yeah.
toxin content. So you're basically saying the same thing and backing
Yeah.
that up, that I'm like,
Yeah.
no, you don't use the kelp.
Yeah. So a big misunderstanding for people who are concerned with about their thyroid is that they think they can't take our spirulina and chlorella because they're worried about the iodine.
Yep.
There is zero iodine in our algae because it's grown in fresh water. You'll find iodine in the seaweed because it comes from the ocean, but there isn't any in the spirulina or chlorella, at least not in ours. And we do third-party lab tests here in the United States because we sell our algae through doctors and functional medicine because they need to see that the nutrients are exactly what we say they are and that there are no toxins. So, so it's a crop. It's a vegetable type of vegetable. It's technically called a sea vegetable, except it's not really a vegetable. And it's in fresh water, so no iodine.
Right.
There's so much nutrition in them. We're using that quote from NASA that said 1 gram of algae, microalgae, has the same nutrition as 1,000 grams of fruits and vegetables. Each one of these tablets has the same nutrition as an entire plate of vegetables.
Wow.
Now, that's an entire plate of vegetables that you didn't have to, drag home from the grocery store, clean, cook, or eat. A lot of people get gas from vegetables. There's a lot of spoilage. There's a lot of arguments at the dinner table. So it's very efficient nutrition. And because they come in tiny little tablets that you can swallow, the dark one is spirulina. We're going to talk about the two algae because they're quite different. You take them at different times for different reasons. Spirulina is a blue-green algae. See how much darker it is than this one? This is chlorella, which is a green algae. Spirulina has a blue pigment in it called phycocyanin. It's kind of that color. And I'll talk to you later about some of the nutrient values of that phycocyanin, one of which is it kills cancer cells, which is pretty important.
Wow.
And it's all scientifically documented. And I'll get into this later when we talk about the mitochondria. It triggers something called cytochrome C to be released, which triggers apoptosis or autophagy of cancer cells. Now, it leaves all the healthy cells alone, but it kills the cancer cells. And the chemotherapy treatments actually use the phycocyanin in their treatments. I tell people, you don't need to go through 6 months of feeling, like shit with all the chemotherapy to kill the cancer cells. You can just have it done when you're taking the spirulina. Maybe you're taking the spirulina because you're doing intermittent fasting or you just want more energy. But what a great side benefit. Oh, kills cancer.
Yeah, for sure. That's a definite fantastic side benefit of it.
Yeah. So the spirulina, I can segue into the two different algae because, as I say, they're quite different. Spirulina's we call ours Energybits, as I mentioned, because it gives you mental and physical energy, and it does that in a couple of ways, and cellular energy. And we'll talk about the cellular energy when we get to the mitochondria. So it has the highest concentration of protein in the world. It has 3 times the amount of protein as steak, and all the proteins already in amino acid form. Now, your body, when you take animal protein, your body has to break it down into amino acids. Here's a picture of protein and animal protein. It's all
I'm a big fan of animal protein.
Is in smaller clusters called peptides, but algae is individual aminos. So it gets into your bloodstream very, very quickly because there's nothing for your body to break down. It has 18 of the 20 aminos, including the 9 your body can't make. So it's a complete protein. And it gets into your bloodstream almost instantly because people will be amazed to find this out. Spirulina is a bacteria. It's called a cyanobacteria. It does not have a cellulose wall, 0 fiber. This is one of the reasons why in Japan, when babies are born and they can't digest mother's breast milk, they give them spirulina and water. First of all, it's easy to digest and gets into the system quickly, but it also has the same amino acid profile as mother's breast milk. So very rapid absorption. So 99% bioavailability, which is pretty sweet. So that's why a lot of athletes use our products for energy, for running or lifting, because it gives them energy without there's 0 carbs. So there's no spike in glucose, and there's also no drop in ketones. It's just at a cellular level. And I tell people cellular energy, which is called ATP, which we'll get to later on, increasing your cellular energy is like increasing money. Like when you have more money, you can do more. You have
Yeah.
more choices, right? When you
That's so
have more
true.
cellular energy, you can do more. You
Yep.
have more choices. And
Yep.
there's nothing that will generate more ATP for you and protect the mitochondria that you have than spirulina. And I'll get into that later on. So it's energizing, but it's not a stimulant energy. It's a cellular energy. And I call it quiet energy because you could take 15 or 20 of these spirulina and then just go to bed. You'll have a great sleep because your effort is devoted to sleeping. So that's what your ATP is going to be doing. But you could go for a run and you'll have the best run of your life because that's how your body is spending your money. You're spending your energy currency. So it's a very interesting concept because people think of sugar or caffeine as a way to get energy, but this is a completely different way. This is nourishing your mitochondria for cellular energy, and that's where the action is.
Yeah, exactly. So you had mentioned earlier about timing of these. Now we're going to get into the second product too,
Yes.
but when would you, if you can take the spirulina in the morning before workout to wake up or before bed, where do you place that particular product? Because literally I've just been taking handfuls of both of them just whenever.
Yeah.
That's how I take it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and that's the right way to do it because they will satisfy your hunger and give you mental focus and physical energy if you want it. And most people are hungry and want energy in the morning or the afternoon. They can be a meal replacement. You could take 20. Now there's only 20 calories, but 20 would satisfy your hunger for a couple of hours. They stop cravings. And so in general, most people take the spirulina, which is the blue one, blue-green, in the morning. So we can say this is an AM algae, and I'll explain why in a minute, why we suggest the chlorella as a PM algae.
Okay.
The other thing is, if you have, and so 10 tablets would give you, enough to feel something. Again, it's nourishment, not a stimulant. Our NHL players have 75 tablets. I mean, they're very tiny, but they take 75 before a hockey game because they want lots of energy on the ice, and then they take 75 of these after because it pulls out lactic acid. So there is no upper limit. It's exactly, they're great for kids. Give them 1 or half a tablet for their age. So if they're 4, give them 2 a day. If they're 6, give them 3 a day. You will never need to worry. If there's any moms listening, you'll never need to worry about your children not being properly nourished. And one of the things that nourishes the most is your brain. And we'll get to that when we talk about the mitochondria. We just finished our first clinical trials with an organization called Gray Team. They try to stop suicide rates of military veterans. And all we did was give them a pouch of these spirulina tablets every day. There's 30 in a tablets. And we're just getting the results now, but it's showing reduced inflammation of the brain just from the algae because of the nutrients that heal the mitochondria. And there's this book that came out a few months ago by Dr. Chris Palmer, Brain Energy. And the whole book is about how all brain issues, post-traumatic stress disorder, Alzheimer's, anxiety, depression, it's all because of damaged mitochondria in the brain. And so you're going to find out, I'll walk you through why the spirulina heals your mitochondria better than anything else in the world. And it's just food. I mean, it's not a drug.
That's amazing. Is that it just is food. Right.
And we've had, anecdotally, we've had customers write us who had terrible Alzheimer's who said, they couldn't even figure out how to work their microwave. And after 2 days of taking the spirulina, their brain fog, cleared and everything was fine. So I know both the science shows it, and I'll explain the science, but also anecdotally it works. So mothers, you want your kids to be alert, or we've worked with team sports. Don't give them a bar or Gatorade or any of those sugary things. Give them, a handful of these. Again, it's food. We call them bits because they're bits of food.
And you can chew them or swallow them. I've been chewing them because I actually don't mind the taste.
Yeah.
And I can see a lot of people may not like the taste, so you can even
Yeah.
swallow them. So
Yeah,
there you
you
go.
can
Yeah.
totally swallow them. I chew mine as well. They're
Yep.
very chewy because there's 64% protein. Like I said, there's nothing in the world with more protein. And they're also loaded with essential fatty acids. So some people don't like how they stick to the teeth. The green one,
Right.
which we'll get to in a minute, they
Yeah.
don't stick to your teeth, but they also don't give you energy. So
Okay.
that's spirulina, mostly in the morning, afternoon, before a workout, anytime you're hungry. Great for intermittent fasting. You'll not get hangry. They don't decrease your ketones. We're going to the keto show because it's a great keto food. Everyone from Dominique D'Agostino, we're highly regarded in the keto community, which is wonderful. So
Yep.
and by the way, we have two versions of spirulina. Someone said, oh, you got a boy spirulina and a girl spirulina. And the reason why there's two is because I started the company because my younger sister had breast cancer. She's fine now, but so women's health is very important to me. But we found that women just didn't like the packaging and the blue, whatever. So because spirulina has more collagen than collagen powder, and it heals your skin, and so it's very much a beauty product as well. So I made a second version and called it Beauty Bits. So
I was gonna ask you about
yeah,
that because I got the beauty bits. I was like, wait a minute, should I take
yeah,
these
we're
two?
not
Okay,
trying
all
to trick
three. They're the same
anybody.
one. Okay.
But women love this one. This is the one I have on my counter. Spas love this one, so they do exactly the same thing. It just I want the packaging to be as happy and connected to the people who are using it. So this is my favorite one too, anyways. So
Yeah.
very nourishing and very energizing in what I call quiet energy. The way you feel is you'll feel like you just had a great night's sleep or a walk in the fresh air. Very no drama with algae. It's just it's just there. It's like sort of like your best friend. Very reliable, and you don't have to take more. It's not like a drug where you have to keep upping your levels. It's food, so you take, if 10's the number that gives you whatever you need. Keep taking 10. If you're not feeling satisfied or energy or focus, up it to 15 or 20. You're more than welcome to have 50 or 75. What, if you're a bigger person, maybe that's what you need, but
Right.
it's just whatever. So anyways, that's spirulina.
All right.
So,
Chlorella. Let's
the
do
chlorella
chlorella.
developed on Earth about 1 billion years after spirulina. Spirulina, is a cyanobacteria, first life on Earth. Chlorella is 1 billion years later. Now, it does belong to the plant kingdom. It does have a cellulose wall. And in fact, it's the hardest cellulose wall in the plant kingdom. And the reason why that's important is because that hard cell wall attaches to toxins: lead, mercury, radiation, alcohol, lactic acid, lime, spores, doesn't matter what it is, and it pulls it out. So that's number one about the hard cell wall. Number two, it has the highest glutathione in the world. Glutathione is also very detoxing. It's considered a master antioxidant, so that's very cleansing. It also has that fiber feeds your gut biome, which is very important because you have to your bacteria in your gut want fiber, and your gut and your brain are connected through the vagus nerve, so that's really important. And then it has the highest chlorophyll in the world. Let me show you something about chlorophyll. Here's a picture of your hemoglobin chemical composition, and here's a picture of your chlorophyll. They are virtually identical.
Very similar. Yeah, for people just listening, they are very, very similar.
Chlorophyll has magnesium in the middle, and your blood has iron in the middle. That's what carries oxygen in your blood. So chlorophyll has always built your blood. And for centuries, they always gave the injured liquid chlorophyll because it would help them heal as quickly as a blood transfusion. It's very, very cleansing. So number one, chlorophyll builds your blood, which is very important because when you have a healthy blood, you're going to have a healthy body. And here's the other cool thing. I don't have my slide here. Chlorophyll is a fat-based pigment. The blue pigment in spirulina is a water-based pigment, which is why it helps stop the growth of blood vessels to tumors, because it's a water-based. Chlorophyll, because it's fat-based, it heals your cell walls. You know how your cells have a fat, it's called a lipid membrane around it, and you need healthy fats like D and E and omegas to keep your lipid membrane moist so that nutrients can get in and toxins can get out. Well, chlorophyll does the same thing because it's fat-based. So it's very healing at the cell wall level. It's also very alkalining. So it keeps the pH of your cells closer to the pH it should be, which is 7.1. When you have slightly alkaline cells, cancer cells can't grow. That was a discovery by Dr. Otto Warburg back in the 30s or 40s, who learned about that. So because of the toxins that it pulls out, the high glutathione, the high chlorophyll, chlorella is a wellness and detoxing algae. Spirulina is a nourishing, energizing algae. And some of the other nutrients in here are like vitamin K2, which move excess calcium out of soft tissue like your skin or your heart or your organs and into your bones. So that's also very healing. And your body goes through a detox repair cycle when you're sleeping. So we generally recommend chlorella before bed, because then you're going to have a much better repair. It also has the highest tryptophan in the world, which is a precursor to melatonin. So it actually helps with your sleeping. It stimulates peristalsis. So it gets rid of the junk in your trunk. It's very, very nourishing and or healing rather. So this is a nourishing algae. This is a healing wellness algae. Now you can take either one of them any time of day, together, alone, with food, instead of food, but at a minimum, take the spirulina in the morning and chlorella at night. And in terms of quantities, again, 10 spirulina a day would give you sufficient nourishment to probably replace a lot of your supplements. If you want it as a meal replacement, you need more like 20 or 30. Chlorella, same thing. 10 a day would give you a lot of the wellness benefits from the chlorophyll. And but for detox, you need the 20 to 30, because if you don't have enough in your system, it can't pull the toxins all the way out of your body. So you want to, so some people, the great thing about chlorella is actually tastes pretty good. It tastes more like a soy nut or a sunflower seed. So if you can enjoy it as a bedtime snack with a little sea salt on it, or some pistachio nuts are my favorite right now, or macadamia nuts, which is very big with keto. Now you're enjoying a little snack, 1 calorie per tablet, and you're getting all these detox benefits. I mean, you could do a week of just 10 and then the next week with 30 or 20 or 30, but you'll feel it's like giving your body a shower from the inside. I guess that's sort of the easiest way to describe it. And we're so surrounded by toxins. I read an article a while ago that said the average adult has 800 toxins in their body, and our immune systems just weren't built to sustain that. And so everybody has the weakest link. It could be your thyroid, it could be anything. And so if the toxins are causing your mitochondria to be damaged and the cellular communication to be effective, things just start falling apart.
So when we're talking about detox, there's so many, we'll use air quotes here, detox protocols out there that many people will just jump on board because they feel like, I just got a message last week from a patient, well, I feel like I need to detox. Well, why do you feel like you need to detox? We probably should all be doing it. And it shouldn't be this big, heavy thing that we do with a bunch of a variety of supplements like Beyonce, and we're drinking cayenne pepper and lemon juice.
Yeah.
This sounds like something that we can do as an ongoing, like a gentle detox. You're not going to start pooping multiple times a day. You're just detoxing more at the cell level. Is that correct?
Yes. And the detox. So if you the way the people say, well, how long will it take before I feel anything? Well, with the spirulina, your hunger will be satisfied if you eat it within seconds, and if you swallow it within maybe 10 minutes. So you'll feel that right away. The chlorella, which is the wellness algae, you might not notice it, but there's a couple of ways you can for sure. One of the things it pulls out is alcohol. So it pulls the alcohol right out of your blood, and it does that in an hour and a half. So in an hour and a half, you will be stone sober, and you will never have a hangover. And at the same time, you're giving your body 60% protein, 40 vitamins and minerals. You're boosting your skin, your sleep. Like let's talk about a multifaceted whatever. So it pulls it out because your blood in an hour and a half is liquid. So to pull toxins out of your cells takes probably about a week to 10 days, because it's a tighter structure, and your organs are denser still. And so that would be like more like a 4-month kind of thing. But the reality is, we don't live in a bubble, so you can't just detox once a year and figure you're done. It's just like you're always going to be exposed to toxins, whether it's in the air, even if you're eating organic, it's just there's stuff everywhere. And because this is so effortless, if you can drink water, you just swallow these guys back, swallow them down. I prefer to chew them. This one makes a nice garnish on your salad. It's crunchy, it's salty, it's really tasty. But either way, it's effortless. Frankly, every single person in the world should be taking both of them forever. And when you do, you can cut out about 5 different supplements. By the way, most supplements are not absorbed by your body because they're made from extracts that don't exist in nature. So you're peeing out a lot of that, whatever you're taking. There's some exceptions, of course, but so this could replace supplements, protein bars, snacks, meals. We have people that they're down to 1 meal a day because they use this through the day and then they have dinner. So they buy fewer groceries and they never go bad. I mean, we have an expiry date that's 3 years out, but technically they actually never go bad. You could keep this for 10 years and it would still be fine. It might not taste great, but it would still be fine. It's very efficient nutrition. Yeah. So
well, let's talk about a little bit about mitochondria too, because that's a really important topic, especially when it comes to different disease states, especially in my world of hypothyroidism and even hormone balance. The mitochondria is vital. That's the powerhouse of the cell. Yeah. So let's tie that in. How does mitochondria and DNA control that cellular communication, that ATP production? How's it tied to disease?
Great question. So what I've come up with this analogy to help people understand what mitochondria are and why they're so important. So when you're born, it's sort of, consider yourself sort of like a new building, a skyscraper. Everything's working, everything's beautiful. And in the skyscraper are offices. And those offices, if you translate them into your body, they're the cells. And, just like you have clusters of floors in a building that's a specialty company, so you have clusters that are specialty organs or whatever. And then in the offices, the thing that keeps everything going are the lights. You can't do any work if you don't have any lights. Your mitochondria are like the lights. They keep everything working. And the trouble is, as you get older, and we'll explain what happens, your mitochondria start to get damaged because from free radicals that are a byproduct of ATP, and they don't get replaced. So slowly but surely, the lights go out in your building until there's so few of them that this is when chronic disease and any kind of illness takes effect, and it certainly elevates the speed of aging. So what algae does, is you're going to find out, is it finds a way to turn your lights back on. So everything can start working again naturally, without drugs, without interference. So why are the mitochondria getting so damaged? I want to show you a picture of a cell. In your cell, you have a bunch of stuff. One is your nucleus, and then you have these little peanut-shaped things that are mitochondria. By the way, there are 2 million of these mitochondria per cell in your brain. Your brain has the highest concentration of mitochondria in your entire body. The next highest is women's eggs, and after that, it's your heart. That's why they're realizing brain issues, heart issues, and even infertility are mitochondria issues. But anyways, back to the mitochondria. So they got these little peanut-shaped things, and inside the mitochondria, this is where ATP production occurs. That's the cellular energy. But what people don't tell you is that in the process of generating ATP, you get free radicals being produced. We all have heard of free radicals. They're very damaging. They cause inflammation. They cause reactive oxygen species. And what happens, however, is that you may not know this, but your mitochondria have their own DNA. You have your regular DNA. There's 25,000 of those. Your mitochondria only have, I think, 13, but they're right inside where the mitochondria, right where the free radicals and the ATP is produced. So they are getting fried every nanosecond by the free radicals because the mitochondria DNA are located right there. It's sort of like, if you've ever sat by a bonfire and you got too close, sparks would fly, right? And you can get burned. So your mitochondria DNA are getting burned every second. And here's the thing. Your mitochondria DNA control all of your other DNA. They control cellular communication. They control autophagy. They control apoptosis. They control everything. And if they're not working properly or they're dying, they aren't triggering the death of cancer cells. They aren't triggering, the growth of healthy cells. Nothing works properly because they're constantly being fried by the free radical damage.
Yep.
So the trick to preventing disease or healing from disease, doesn't matter what it is, thyroid, doesn't matter what it is to reduce the free radical damage. Now, there's two ways that you could do that. The first one is to reduce free radicals. So because free radicals are being produced from your food, and the worst offenders are carbs. You get the most free radicals from carbs. So the first thing anyone should be doing, even if you can't go on keto, just go low carb. You'll automatically have reduced free radicals. I promise you. Then the better step is to do intermittent fasting or long-term fasting or algae, because these two create virtually zero free radicals. You'll never get to a point of zero free radicals because just by breathing and living, there's always some free radicals. But the best thing is first to reduce the free radicals, and algae or fasting or keto are your best way to do that.
And I'm glad you mentioned that real quick, Catherine. I'm glad you mentioned that because I'm not a huge fan, since, women have such struggles getting in the proper amount of protein every day. I'm actually not a huge fan of a lot of intermittent fasting going on for my ladies, because inevitably they won't take in the proper amounts of protein. They'll have this 6 to maybe 4 to 6 hour eating window, and they'll get in 50 grams of protein. So if you're going to do the fasting, I'm going to say do it with the algae, because then that's giving you the protein even during your fasting period without breaking the fast and without reducing the beneficial effects like autophagy.
Exactly. And on that note, there's only 5 grams of protein in 30 tablets. And you may think, well, that's nothing, but it's 5 grams that are 100% absorbed. And when you eat animal protein, it can take up to 2 to 3 days for your body to break it down into aminos. And very often you're missing the factors and cofactors. So in many cases, you only absorb about 10% of that protein as aminos. So to put it in context, you could have 50 grams of chicken, but you only end up with 5 grams of aminos.
Right.
When you get 5 grams of aminos, you get 5 grams of aminos. It's just for 5 grams of protein, you get it all. So it's very efficient, bioavailable. So it's really the answer, and yet it doesn't trigger mTOR pathways either. So it's kind of like the sweet spot. I used to apologize at first that there wasn't as much protein as I wanted in here, but it is what it is. And it's actually exactly the right amount. And you can always have more, right? So
exactly.
So you don't have to be hangry when you're doing fasting. And we've done testing with Keto Mojo. It shows I've done research. It does not decrease your ketones. It does not increase your glucose. So it's really sweet. So
this really is kind of an all-in-one, well, not just one product, but the two, the chlorella and the spirulina. Really, we are hitting mitochondria improvement, detox pathways. We're getting in the protein. We're getting in the amino acids. We are, like I said, detox pathways, but literally pulling out toxins.
Yeah.
I mean, this is really kind of, it's all encompassing. So I'm really liking how this is all coming together as like you said, a superfood, not just a supplement. It's not a supplement at all. It is a food that we're implementing into our protocol. And it's really hitting all of these different facets of our health.
Yeah. God bless Mother Nature. Like, we just grow it very carefully and preserve it and test it. But she's the one that concocted all this. And it's not just nourishing, it's medicinal. And I'll get into some of the medicinal attributes in a few minutes because it's so powerful. It's like, man, why wouldn't you take algae? So to reduce the free radical damage, to stop it rather, to preserve your mitochondria, you want to reduce those free radicals. Now, the second thing you can do is to remove the free radicals. And we've all heard about antioxidants, blueberries and vitamin C. But the problem is none of those can get into the mitochondria inner membrane. The mitochondria are the only cell structure in your body that has two membranes. Remember we talked about earlier, there's a lipid membrane that's on around all of your cells. And there is a lipid membrane on the exterior of your mitochondria. But I'm showing you a picture that shows that there's a second membrane inside that lipid membrane. And it doesn't have what's called porins, which does not allow these other antioxidants in there. The only antioxidants that can get into that inner membrane are glutathione, melatonin, superoxide dismutase, and chlorophyll. Now, the good news is your body makes the first three, glutathione, melatonin, and superoxide dismutase, since the moment you're born. Okay, perfect story, right? But this is why you can do just about anything. You're young and you can party or do whatever you want, and you're like a superhuman. But once you hit 30, your body stops making those super glutathione, melatonin, and superoxide dismutase. And then what happens is when you hit 40 and 50, there's virtually none. And I think this is the reason why people are getting so sick after the age of 30, because the antioxidants that used to stop the free radical damage aren't there anymore. They're just gone. And I kept thinking to myself, well, Mother Nature, like, why would she do that? Like, she's so intelligent. Why did she stop protecting us after the age of 30? And I found out why. Up until recently, the average age we died at 30. It's only in the last couple hundred years we've lived past 30.
Right.
Prehistoric, everything. We were dying at 30. So our body's biology thinks we die at 30. Right. And it hasn't caught up to the fact that we're now living to 80 and 90, possibly 100. But who wants to live to 100 when you're so incapacitated? You don't have the energy. You've come, 50% of Americans have a chronic disease now. And when you are over 65, that goes up to 85%. 85% of people have a chronic disease. I think the average person takes 5 medications. By the way, I take none. So the problem is, as you age, those protective antioxidants, they're called endogenous because they're made by your body, drop. And at the same time, you've been living longer, so you've been accumulating toxins. This is the perfect storm. This is thyroid disease. This is cancer. This is heart disease. This is Alzheimer's. This is everything right here, because your mitochondria are so damaged, there's less of them. And the few that are there aren't working very well anymore. But here's the good news. Algae has the highest concentration of all of them. Superoxide dismutase, melatonin, glutathione, and chlorophyll. And because the chlorella pulls out the toxins, and both algae build all those nutrients back into your system, your mitochondria can start surviving again. We can turn the lights back on your mitochondria so that they aren't getting damaged anymore because they have the protection. And just to give you an example, so here's a picture of a healthy mitochondria, and here's a damaged mitochondria. There's something called the electron transport chain, which is there's like 4 different stations in the process of making ATP. And when your mitochondria are damaged, those little stations, they separate, they get further and further apart from one another. It's sort of like a relay race. It's like, if they're further apart from one another, the baton can't be passed. And so more free radicals leak out to cause more damage. And so it basically keeps continuing damaging the inside of the mitochondria. So there's less and less communication going on. But we can stop that process by putting back the antioxidants that protect you from the free radical damage. And I don't have a slide on it, but just to walk you through how that actually happens. Well, here I'll give you, so superoxide dismutase is one of them. Basically what it does is it turns the free radicals into water, harmless water. So that's not damaging to your cell at all. And I mentioned earlier about the cancer thing. So the blue pigment in the spirulina is called phycocyanin. It's spelled P-H-Y-C-O-N-I-Y. And I spell that out for you because people can go online and Google what I'm going to tell you, because I want you to know that this is exactly the truth. So that phycocyanin, what it does is it triggers something in that electron transport chain called cytochrome C to be released. And the release of this thing called cytochrome C triggers apoptosis, which is programmed cell death of cancer cells. It kills the cancer cells and leaves the healthy cells alone. And they use this in cancer treatments. But of course, the pharmaceutical companies aren't going to tell you that.
Right.
They want you to, they want you to take their drugs, and they don't want you to die, but they also don't want you to heal necessarily. But you can get the same effect from the spirulina itself. They actually use the phycocyanin in this process. So that's a pretty powerful thing, that there's a nutrient that can isolate and kill cancer cells. I mean, really?
Very powerful. That's very powerful.
It's pretty crazy. But the fact that both algae have these antioxidants that can get into that inner membrane and stop the free radical damage is pretty powerful, because and I'm going to explain to you now why there's that second inner membrane, and this will help explain why algae is so amazing. So remember I said at the very beginning that algae was the first life on Earth. It was a cyanobacteria like spirulina. And before it started growing, Earth was just gas and water, no oxygen. Nobody knows why this single cell, it was an anaerobic cell, started growing, but it did. And it generated ATP. And in the process, a byproduct was oxygen. So after 1 billion years, there was now oxygen on Earth. So larger aerobic cells could grow, but they didn't generate ATP as well. And meanwhile, the original anaerobic cell was struggling because it was an anaerobic cell. It didn't do so well with oxygen. So I say, well, I can imagine the conversation. The big cell says to the little cell, hey, little guy, I see you're struggling there. How about you join us? We'll protect you from the oxygen and you can generate ATP for us. And that's exactly what happened. The original cell, which was a cyanobacteria like spirulina, was engulfed by the bigger cell, but it didn't get digested. It coexisted and became mitochondria. Cyanobacteria became mitochondria. Now, that's why there's this inner membrane. It's reminiscent of the original days when it was all by itself as a single cell bacteria. It didn't disappear, it just got a second membrane put over it when it got absorbed. And this explains to me why algae has everything that your mitochondria need, because they came from the same place. And it's all documented in NIH articles. It's called endosymbiotic theory, that your mitochondria evolved from bacteria, like cyanobacteria, like spirulina. So it's pretty cool to me that this is all from the same family, same genesis. So and I don't know many people who know about that. I only
dive into I mean, you really dove into the science of all this, which is just absolutely amazing. I know you spent many years, if not decades, on
13 years.
Yeah, that's a long time there, Catherine. That's a long time. So yeah, let's wrap it up for our readers or for our listeners. What protocol should they do? I know we went over the morning, we went over the evening. So what would you recommend, just kind of an in general overall health protocol? Obviously, we all want to avoid cancer. We all want better mitochondrial function. We all want more energy. So what would you suggest our listeners implement?
Yeah, well, we want you to be, careful and confident about what you're putting in your body. So generally we suggest, 10 tablets of the spirulina in the morning. But if that's not satisfying your hunger and not giving your energy that you need for, whatever hours, up it to 20 or take the full pouch of 30. And then same thing at nighttime, take 10 for wellness benefits. But if you're doing detox, and I would encourage you to take the full 30. And also, so AM, PM, the other thing, because the spirulina helps so much with your mitochondria, and there's so many mitochondria in your brain, think of spirulina as working from the top down. And because this helps your gut with the fiber and the chlorophyll, which is very cleansing, think of this as bottoms up. So top down, bottoms up, AM, PM. And if you took 10 tablets a day, and we sell our algae in large bags like this, there's 1,000 tablets, a bag would last you 3 months. So it's, and I found out that I did my calculation, there's, using that NASA quote, there's the equivalent nutrition of 551 pounds of vegetables in each bag. So it's very efficient nutrition, no waste at all. Some people get gas from vegetables, doesn't ever happen with the algae. Because spirulina in particular has no fiber, and it's safe for your pets, safe for your grandparents. And if you're not getting the results that you're looking for, just take more. I mean, I have over 100 a day, and I have for 13 years. So it's food. So we have a special 20% discount code, Dr. Amy, all one word, no space, no dot in between, Dr. Amy. So if you come to our website, energybits.com, and go to the discount code box and type in Dr. Amy, you'll get 20% off whatever you buy. And we have them in really fun canisters that you can shake out easily into your hands, so you don't have to put your hands into the bags. And we have them in boxes of single pouches that are really handy to travel with or put in your handbag. You're stuck in traffic, you don't have to panic and end up eating carbs if you don't want to. You'll find you may take it for thyroid purposes, but your skin will improve, or maybe you'll take it because you want more energy, but your sleep will improve. Algae is the gift that just keeps on giving, at least ours is, and I can attest to you of the safety and purity of it because I oversaw everything.
Definitely.
And again, remember, it's grown we grow ours in triple filtered spring mountain water. So it's not from the ocean. Yes, there is algae in the ocean, but not ours. So you're not dealing with any toxins from the ocean. It's probably the most concentrated, clean food you'd ever put in your body. Again, no iodine, because it is not from the ocean. And I think I can't imagine a single person that it wouldn't benefit, honestly, of any age, regardless of what your activity level is. So
it sounds like it. Definitely. Well, Catherine, thank you so much for coming on, explaining all of this, imparting your wisdom, bringing this to the world. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
And for the discount code for the listeners, that's been amazing. That is amazing as well.
Yeah. And we'll send you a bunch of links that you can post. So I want people to know that everything is documented in science. There's 100,000 studies on that document this, except, scientists like to talk to other scientists. They don't know how to talk to humans. And I also want people to know that algae isn't new. It's just new to you. And think about it. A few years ago, you probably didn't know about matcha or kiwa or even collagen powder, but somebody brought it to your attention, because a lot of these things, including algae, have been indigenous in other countries for centuries.
Right.
So just check the source. And go on, come to our website, just even to learn. We write a pretty complex blog every month. So there's lots of information. Just inform yourself so that you can protect yourself. That's the number one.
Definitely. Amazing. Well, thank you once again for your time, Catherine. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll see you soon.
Okay.